Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Aaron Gerds, and I'm the editor-in-chief of ASH Clinical News. Thank you for joining us for today's ASH Clinical News webinar, where we'll be discussing different volunteer opportunities and pathways offered by the American Society of Hematology, or ASH, why you should consider getting involved with ASH, and how to get involved. Hopefully, we'll answer lots of important questions on these topics, as well as maybe some existential questions like, if a saltine doesn't have salt on it, is it still a saltine? But all joking aside, it's my absolute pleasure to be joined today by Drs. Abdallah, Linenberger, and Ulrickson to discuss these topics. While our virtual roundtable is taking place, we encourage you to take advantage of the attendee chat and share any questions you might have. Once the discussion wraps up, we'll move on to our live Q&A. To start us off, can you tell us who you are and what you do, and how long you've been involved with ASH, and what your current role as a volunteer at ASH is? I know that's a lot of questions, but I think this will be a good way to get to know our audience. So I'll start with Dr. Linenberger.
Thank you, Aaron. It's great to be with you all. I am a professor emeritus, having retired in January of this year. And I've been at University of Washington and Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center pretty much my whole professional life, and focused primarily in my clinical administrative duties in apheresis and cellular therapy, supporting the stem cell transplant program. Also spent a lot of time as program director of the Hematology Oncology Fellowship, and the first 10 years of my career doing basic research. My first involvement with ASH was way back in 1992, when one of my colleagues, Dr. George Stamatianopoulos, was ASH president, and he began something called the ASH Grassroots Network. And I joined the ASH Grassroots Network primarily to help NIH funding along the way, and have had a number of experiences since then, and I'll be delighted to speak about more. I am currently the chair of the nominations committee for ASH, so still actively involved in my retirement. And again, we'll be delighted to share a lot more. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Dr. Ulrickson, could you tell us who you are and what your first memories of ASH might be, and what you're doing today with ASH?
And again, likewise, we'll echo that. Glad to be here, and hello to everybody that's out there listening. Appreciate you tuning in. So, Matt Ulrickson, I am here at Banner MD Anderson in Arizona. I'm currently the section chief of hematology. I've been here for the past decade or so since leaving University of Washington, so great memories there as well. And within clinical and research, staying employed to cellular therapy, also a transplanter, but mostly CAR T trials, single agent novel therapies. Within ASH, we'll talk about the beginnings, and actually it was while I was there with you, Dr. Linenberger, and still remember thinking, all right, is hematology about malignant hematology or not? And finally realizing, no, that's actually right where I want to be for cellular therapy and malignant hematology. And so started to get involved with the first meeting, and shortly thereafter, I had a chance to be on the training council. And so that was my first entry point into ASH. We'll talk, many more about the in-betweens, but currently have the privilege of being on the Government Affairs Committee, also within the Test Materials Development Committee, where we do write the in-service exams. So I apologize. All of my other colleagues are the ones that wrote the hard questions. I wrote the nice ones. And also take part in the subcommittee on awards, and then trainee day, blood buddy activities, things like that.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Ulrickson. And Dr. Abdallah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Maya Abdallah. I'm a fellow at Boston University. I'm a geriatric hematology and oncology fellow. Not that I am geriatric, but I focus on the care of older adults, and I'm passionate about improving the care of older adults with hematologic malignancies. My first memories of ASH are probably that I had registered to attend my first ASH meeting during my chief resident year before I was even a hemonc fellow yet. Match was a few days before ASH, and I showed up at Ashapalooza, and it felt like a carnival, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is just everything. And I loved it. And then I went to actual ASH, and it was daunting, and I didn't know where to go. And since then, I've kind of looked up a lot of resources that ASH has for trainees. And the next time I attended ASH, I was able to kind of use what to do there as a trainee that ASH trainees put together as a guideline. That's kind of my introduction to ASH. Fast forward to the middle of my fellowship, ASH sent out a blast email saying, there's a thing called the Trainee Council. They do a lot of really cool stuff, and they put together Ashapalooza. You should apply if you want to be part of it. And of course, I went right back to that memory of how much I loved Ashapalooza, quickly wrote up an application, and joined the Trainee Council, to which I'm currently chair. Very passionate about being on the council and appreciative for that opportunity.
Thanks for sharing. Well, it's pretty obvious, I think, from this conversation already that ASH is not only an organization to help hematologists take care of patients with blood disorders and further the care of those patients, but really also, as part of that, provides a community for all of us to be part of. And you can see that we're all interconnected in some way here via the ASH networks and the ASH tent. So it's a wonderful place to be for sure. And through this webinar, we're in this exercise, we're hoping to give folks idea of pathways to get involved with ASH and kind of further your sense of community within the society. All right, so we're going to start off. I got a couple of pre-prompted questions, if you will. And I'm going to start with Dr. Ulrickson. So you kind of alluded to this, some of your first volunteer positions you held at ASH. How did you get involved? And, how did you ultimately continue on your way to get involved with the Government Affairs Committee that you're on today?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that, similar to Dr. Abdallah there, the Trainee Council entry was a wonderful starting point to me. And I would say that first and foremost, because I still feel it a little bit. And so for anybody out there that's feeling something similar, wondering, am I good enough to, represent ASH? Yes, you certainly are. If you're passionate about, the care of patients with blood disorders, certainly. So once I got over that, applied for the Trainee Council. And I can't say enough great things about how much that launched both my involvement within ASH, growth as a leader, and just, continued, to this day, new areas of growth. And so I still remember, Dr. Gary Schiller was the chair of the committee on training at that time. And so I got to overlap with him and learned a whole lot about how to run an effective meeting from him. Love that experience and, still use it to this day. So thank you, Dr. Schiller, if you're listening in. And the other thing that I just really, really appreciated is in between the Trainee Council meeting, committee on training, we would walk around DC. And so I got to just hear from him and pick his brain. And that's what I love about ASH is the opportunity to just interact with outstanding people, many on this, call today, that you just learn so much from. And so I would say that what I get from opportunities from ASH is not only hopefully the ability to move the field of hematology forward, but learning from colleagues not only about, patient care and structures, but hey, they're struggling with the same things that we are. How did they overcome this? And, like I mentioned, leadership skills and things like that. And so that was my entry into it. And shortly after that, the second thing that I would point out is ASH has some wonderful points of entry that are pretty broad and open. So one is Dr. Linenberger, you mentioned at the Grassroots Network, fantastic way to just say, talk a bit about what it is. It's an opportunity to hear about the issues that ASH is advocating for on our behalf and on behalf of our patients, that they make it very, very easy to help take part in. They, have a good form letter to send to your representative to say that this is a way that we can advocate for NIH funding, advocate for improving the care of patients with sickle cell disease. So we started early on with that. The other two opportunities that I want to highlight are, especially on the pathway of government affairs, the Advocacy Leadership Institute. Outstanding experience to go to DC, learn about politics, and actually, have to say at this point, the good part of it, right? The functional part of it that we don't usually see in the day-to-day, where things actually get done and there's, compromises that happen. So it was wonderful. You learn about how do you speak to the media? How do you kind of advocate for issues and topics? Delightful time. I get overlap with people that have been doing it quite a bit and then get to go to the Hill and meet, representatives in the office. And the final one is the way I entered into the question writing is the question writing workshop. And it's had some different iterations over time, but it's a fantastic skill as a hematologist in education to learn how do you write a good question. So just, learn from the MDME template, have it criticized, kind of talk through how do you write an effective question that's so applicable to what I do, back at home. And that led to being able to write for the in-training exam and, help to lead that. So as you can tell, have plenty of enthusiasm for these. But those are the 3 points of entry. I would say that the final thing is, don't be embarrassed to nominate yourself. If you're really excited about doing something, just go ahead and nominate yourself. It's great, yes, if you can find somebody else to help support, but don't let that be the bar that keeps you from participating.
Well, thank you so much. Definitely your enthusiasm oozes through the Zoom screen here in large amounts. And I think you touched on a lot of really important points. When the opportunity to volunteer comes along, you take a page out of Nike's playbook and you just do it. And be empowered to do such things. But I really like the idea that you can get so much more out of ASH volunteerism, mentorship, skills of like running a meeting, these kind of more practical, non-medical skills that you learn, and of course the career building aspect of things. Dr. Linenberger, I know you've had a long history of ASH volunteerism in different facets and roles throughout the organization, and starting at a very early time in your career. And how has volunteering helped build your career, your long and distinguished career?
Yeah, for me, ASH has been sort of the foundation of career building in terms of being able to speak on a national stage, being able to build that reputation, which is, of course, critical for us in academia and in our promotion and career development. Career professional aspects are one thing. The personal aspects are another. The ability to find meaning and practice altruism is another aspect. And I think, as Dr. Ulrickson alluded to, there are just scores and scores of ways that you can volunteer for ASH and meet many of your personal professional goals. I started out in 1992. At that point, I was doing basic science research, and so much less involved in the clinical and teaching side of things. But I did chair our Grand Rounds series here and created our fellow didactic teaching series. And because of that, I was invited to write a chapter for the first ASH SAP that I know you, Dr. Gerds, and Dr. Ulrickson are very involved with. This was 2003, I believe. And sitting on the ASH SAP group, did learn the exam writing skills. I was then invited by one of the first editors of ASH SAP, Dr. Jim George, to co-chair the education program for the 2005 ASH annual meeting. Tremendous opportunity, a lot of work, but really allowed me to immerse myself within the ASH community at that point. I worked with individuals who chaired committees. And so because I think we did a good job with the 2005 education program, got invitations to sit on other committees, to be nominated. Dr. Ulrickson mentioned don't be shy to self-nominate. Actually, from the nominations committee perspective, we actually ask you to self-nominate. We provide nominations for 18 scientific subcommittees, 13 of the standing committees. And we do get a keen insight into individuals when you self-nominate. So yes, don't be shy, and please take that seriously in terms of selling yourself when you do want to sit on a committee. Having others second your nomination is also very helpful as well. But yes, don't be shy. Push your comfort zone and move forward in that regard. Again, back to my own journey and ways that ASH has helped. As a medical director of apheresis and cellular therapy, I became very involved with other societies. AABB began a cellular therapy section that I was a part of, the American Society for Apheresis, very important in terms of collecting those stem cells from our patients. And being able to liaise between ASH and those other societies was incredibly helpful in terms of building your own developmental network. We teach this to our fellows, that as you grow, mentors, advisors, sponsors are incredibly important, and creating intentionally your developmental network for mentorship for opportunities for networking is vitally important. And so ASH, again, was at the nexus of that for me. As I moved on through volunteer activities, things just happen. You do a good job and ASH pays attention. And I must say that ASH is very intentional about their institutional memory. And if you do a good job in one project, you will be invited to help with another or be nominated for another. And so it's very much a self-perpetuating series of activities that you can be involved with. And so you might be invited to apply for a study section review position. You might be asked to consider helping with authorship among the many publications. And again, more things that we can talk about. But the last thing I guess I wanted to comment on as chair of the nominating committee is that ASH is also incredibly dedicated to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And this is across all of our demographics, underrepresented minority folks, international members, gender equity, and PhDs. Let me emphasize that ASH is very intentional that our PhD members have a seat at the table. And so within our nominating committee meetings, we look very intentionally about the balance of gender, race, underrepresented minority, and PhD representation. One last thing also is that ASH very much appreciates your involvement. I can't say that that is true around your volunteer work in all domains, but that is so important that you feel appreciated, that you have tremendous support, and that it means something. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Linenberger. I think, again, that kind of key theme of a place to be, right, as a hematologist, whether you're, a bench scientist or a clinician or anything in between. I think that keeps coming up in this conversation, and a way to strengthen that relationship within the community is certainly through volunteerism and getting so much back. Even just simple thank yous from the society, I think go a long way. And we got a couple of folks here who are at different points in their career and had different points in their ASH volunteerism. Dr. Abdallah, you being relatively junior, again, as a fellow, I was terrified to volunteer for anything for ASH and was quite certain I would never be involved. But luckily, was able to get involved. But what kind of advice would you give to someone who's more junior, who's like interested in getting involved with ASH, just kind of tentative and on the fence?
That's a wonderful question, and I think a perfect segue after hearing from really giants in the field, and it's wonderful to be kind of even sharing this roundtable discussion with everyone here. And that's really the opportunity that ASH Training Council has offered me and other members of the Training Council, which is extremely humbling. So I will say, again, I replied to a blast email that went out to all trainees. And I actually still have this in my inbox. It's embarrassing, but I'll share. I forwarded it to my PD because you get a letter from your PD, and I wrote, I'd like to apply for this. I don't think I'll get it, but I'll apply, in my email. So I had such little faith, and I don't know why trainees often, I think we see other people's success and we just can't always visualize ourselves. And this may not be very common, but a lot of trainees may not think that they have, quote unquote, what it takes, or that their application will be looked upon favorably. And this is kind of our own fault for being too critical of ourselves sometimes. But for instance, I'm an international medical graduate. I was still pretty early on in my training. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm not like from a big enough institution, or all these false pretenses that people think about. Forget about all those things. Apply. And behind every successful application, and every time you see someone in a position where they've done something incredible, they probably submitted many applications before that maybe they had to learn from, and maybe they had to improve upon something. So I think the lesson I took from all this is, if you're interested in volunteering for something within ASH, apply. And if you don't get it the first time, or even the second time, or at any point in time, there might be something else you'll learn from it. There may be another connection you'll form, and it'll really open up your horizons and your view on everything. So I think if there's something you're interested in, go for it. My experience has been, and I've spoken with many trainees, ASH is extremely receptive to what trainees want. We are offered a seat at the table often, and we are actually heard. which I think is a wonderful thing. And the Trainee Council represents a selection of trainees, and we try to be mindful. Everyone selected on the council has something different to bring to the table intentionally, but there are people not on the council who may have a voice. So I would encourage them to apply for any volunteer opportunity they see and reach out and see how they can get involved. And I'll emphasize something everyone else already said. It truly is a community, and you're welcomed with open arms. And there is something for everyone at every level. And when there isn't, there's an opportunity for a grassroots initiative. There's always an opportunity to say, I don't know, I think we need better representation for this group of trainees, and we'd like to add that. And that's often met well, and the resources are made available. So I think if you're thinking about applying, if it's anywhere in the back of your head, just do it. Go ahead and apply. Worst that'll happen is that you make some good connections and you'll try again later.
Well, thank you. And with that kind of inspiration in hand, I'd like to get a little bit more practical for a moment. And I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Linenberger as the kind of the chair of the committee that focuses on volunteerism within ASH. What's the practical steps to say someone's now highly watched this video and is highly motivated at getting involved in ASH? What are kind of the practical steps to get involved, like say a committee or either a standing committee or a scientific committee, and of course different portals, if you will, to enter into your volunteerism?
Yeah, great question, Dr. Gerds. I would say click onto the Get Involved tab on the ASH website. That will take you to the main page that will give you a whole menu of volunteer opportunities. And within each of those volunteer opportunities, you will see the various different working groups, subcommittees, initiatives, et cetera, involved where volunteers are welcomed. And within each of those, there might actually be a specific contact person, or more commonly, a specific application form to fill out. And this might involve more detailed information based on the work of that group. So, for example, if you would like to review grants, there's a study section review where the requirements are that you have to be MD, PhD, or even a PharmD, but an academic appointment is required for that. And I should say you need to be an ASH member in good standing to be a volunteer. So make sure your dues are up to date, or you can catch up with those. But each of the different potential volunteer activities will have specific requirements for you. And then something that I think is very important is there's a general volunteer interest form. So as Dr. Abdallah alluded to, we might not know where our strengths lie, where our interests might lie, where skill building might be important. And so the volunteer interest form asks, what would you like to do? What would you like to think about in terms of volunteer activities? And cleverly within that form, they ask, how much time do you want to spend? And I think that's a very important question, particularly for early career folks who are very busy just trying to establish their own research program, their own portfolio, and that you might not have a huge amount of time. But explicitly in the volunteer interest form, do you want to spend in the order of hours to a few days? Do you want to spend months to maybe a year of time? Do you want to do a deep dive and do long-term volunteer commitment? And so just the volunteer interest form that you fill out will give the ASH volunteer group an idea of where you might be able to find the best fit for your interests, the depth of involvement, and so forth. So again, go to the Get Involved site. The advocacy work that Dr. Ulrickson is very involved with also has specific nomination forms for specific activities. There's a meeting leadership and development group, global capacity building, career mentorship, guideline development and quality improvement. That's directly through the quality team. There's information on the nominating committee work and executive leadership and committees. So that's a great place to start. And yes, don't be afraid to reach out. ASH staff are terrific in terms of answering questions and helping you along the way.
Yeah, ash staff are certainly the engine that makes the ash car go. Nothing to do with snails, but yes, but really critical to the mission that we're on here. So also kind of practically speaking, Dr. Ulrickson, I know you're involved with the Committee on Government Affairs. What does the standing committee do, specifically the Committee on Government Affairs, and how often do you meet, and what are the meetings like?
Yeah, great question. So would say, a few things just as an intro for government affairs. So, really the main goal is to advocate for the things that, that through ASH we've kind of identified can be helpful to patients, to, physicians, providers, to teams that, take care of patients with hematologic conditions. And so that's multifold. So one is when there are significant, I would say, political moments, then one of the opportunities is to help develop the ASH response to that. Example that I give in the last year is the challenge to Roe v. Wade, and how would ASH's response look like to that? So as you can imagine, very spirited discussions, and how do we represent the whole of ASH with those statements? But again, just keeping the patients at the forefront, the physicians, the team members that are within the field of hematology. The second is to identify issues that would be of interest to ASH and its members. How do we identify, for example, medication policy is something that oral chemotherapy parity. That's something that historically has come up. One of the recent ones, improving the care of patients with sickle cell disease. So the Comprehensive Care Act that was just debated on the floor 2 days ago now, and improving transfusion access to hospice. Just some examples of things that when you are in the clinic with a patient, you say, I really wish we could do this, but, and then the but usually says, all right, we can't get Medicare and cover it or whatever. So it's really an opportunity to impact on that. And I strive to, far from it, but strive to never complain about things that I'm not willing to help change. And so for me, it's a great opportunity to take some of those things that are really frustrating when you're taking care of patients and do something about it. And it really is impactful. So in terms of government affairs, one of it is just meeting, discussing those issues. The second is actually going to the Hill and meeting with representatives. Now, oftentimes it's legislative assistants who are incredibly bright. And so if you ever go to meet with your representative and you get a legislative assistant that looks like they might still be in high school, just know it's a great person to talk to. Don't be discouraged. You really can move the needle. You're meeting with their, scientific representative. But yes, sometimes they'll meet with representative themselves and have the opportunity through a story to really share what it's like to care for patients and the impact that policies have. And so I really find this rewarding and satisfying, and especially if you are from a state, because again, we only can go into offices where we have somebody that's represented, a voting member. And so I can say that we have many states that are well represented. They're on certain parts of the country. But one of the reasons that led me to do it is I looked at Arizona, and again, I always try to avoid getting political when I'm talking about government, but it's hard. But I looked at Arizona, and we are a fairly purple state, and had some senators that were in an impactful position and said, this is a great time to go and sit in their offices as much as I can. So I took that opportunity to say, this is the moment to do it. So look at the landscape, and you don't have to agree. It's actually really, really helpful to have a whole wide spectrum of representation that are all talking about hematologic issues. Yes, your pitch is a little bit different, whether it be a right-leaning or left-leaning office. But that's a fun part of it too, is how to figure out how do you advocate, through the lens. And so I really found it, fascinating, learned a lot. And again, it's a challenge to me, because you hear about these issues that kind of get you riled up. But when you actually get the chance to figure out what does a response look like, what is a good response, I've learned a lot from that, because you have to set emotions aside and really just be thoughtful about it, because you're not only representing yourself in that moment, but a huge society of people, and most importantly, patients that don't have that voice. And so it's really a fun challenge to figure out how to do that well and effectively.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, again, emphasizing the point that ASH committees and ASH in general, again, is the point is to help hematologists take care of patients. And whether that's through advocacy and the Committee on Government Affairs or the Committee on Practice, looking at various practice issues and reimbursement and those types of things, the Committee on Quality, developing guidelines even to help care for patients, or the Committee on Training, looking at bringing up the next generation of hematologists, involving those hematologists and the Trainee Council. So I'm going to pivot over to Dr. Abdallah. You're involved with the Trainee Council, and what does that really do for hematology fellows, residents, and students?
That's a great question. So I already mentioned our crown jewels, or at least what I think is our crown jewel, and that's Ashapalooza. And I think there's a great trainee day at the annual meeting, but much like all things ASH, there is much more than just the annual meeting. And there's a lot that happens throughout the year that trainees can be involved in. And so the Trainee Council aims to make the voices of trainees heard and adapt what ASH offers trainees to be up to date and to be current with what trainees might need and might want. And there are several projects and programs that the Trainee Council works on. There are some that are current existent programs of ASH that have been kind of the brainchild of ASH Trainee Councils prior. And many people on this call would know much more details about that, but I can speak to some of the successful programs that have come out of the Trainee Council and some of the projects that we're currently working on and we're currently passionate about. So a lot of people may know the currently ongoing, and by the time this series airs, will be nearing completion, but the Hematology Review Series was proposed by prior Trainee Council members and put together by Trainee Council members. And it is an example of what trainees wanted and what ASH made available to them. And basically, trainees felt that we really wanted an accessible information source where we could learn things and have a thorough board review style lectures that were available to trainees. And this lecture series was put together with experts from all around the country teaching hematology board subjects, and the Trainee Council moderate each of these sessions and attend and help with that. The Hematology Review Series is constantly improving. We felt like we wanted a few additional sessions. So as the Trainee Council, we proposed these new rapid fire sessions that we tried last year that were a huge success. There's many other components. The ASH Hematology Career Planner is kind of also a really helpful resource that many people have referenced and that Trainee Council tries to keep up to date. And what that does is it tries to serve as a resource that allows trainees everywhere and anywhere to have access to what kind of ASH would describe as a way to formulate your career. So if you are a trainee or you know a trainee who may be interested in hematology, definitely refer them to check this out on the website. It is it's kind of an interactive click-through thing on the ASH website. You can find it under our trainee webpage, and it walks you through all stages of MD or PhDs interested in hematology and what you should be considering at a specific stage. So for instance, you would click on the residency stage and it would tell you what kind of awards and projects are available to you, what kind of networking events are available to you as a resident who's interested in hematology, so forth and so on. There's things for clinical fellows early in their clinical training, like resources of what to read and how to learn, and things for later in your training, like when you're transitioning to a career in different types of hematology, be it industry, be it clinical, be it academic. And likewise for our PhD colleagues, there's kind of, it walks you through different things. So the ASH Career Planner is a great place. The Grants Clearinghouse helps trainees figure out how to write grants. And in addition to the existent successful things that the ASH Trainee Council past generations have put together and that we continue to upkeep and to improve, we are passionate about new projects. So things that applicants come forward and apply and say, I would love ASH to do more of so-and-so. And I'll give an example of what I'm very passionate about that has been well received and that we're working on is working on putting together an IMG working group, so an International Medical Graduate Working Group. And there are statistics that up to 33% of trainees in hematology and oncology in the US are international medical graduates. So we're passionate about having kind of some resources for IMGs and thinking about their specific needs. Again, a grassroots initiative, trainees came together and said, we want more of this. And ASH said, we'd love to hear more. What do you want to do? How do you want us to do this? So it really is a council for trainees, led by trainees. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Well, that's fantastic. And you can, I think you can really see here, from these two examples of being involved with the Committee on Government Affairs and the Trainee Council, is that you can find a place within ASH volunteerism and a way to take your passions within hematology or just your passions in general and bring them to life to make the care of patients with hematologic disorders better and really kind of move things forward. If we think about the ASH car, driving towards that better future for patients with blood disorders, if the ASH staff's the engine, certainly the fuel is the volunteerism of the ASH members, making things go forward. But you get back, I don't want to sound like some sort of infomercial, but you get back so much more, right? Everything you put in, you get back. I think it was with the Beatles, right? The love you take is equal to the love you make. And I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it really seems like that. Every ounce of volunteerism you put into ASH, you really seem to receive back and fourfold almost, it seems like. But really, it's just another way to kind of further the field and connect with colleagues. And again, there's just so much upside and so much enthusiasm here. It's just hard to capture all that in a simple Zoom screen. But I think we've done a pretty good job. And we
Dr.
are
Gerds?
Yes.
Can I jump in real quick?
Please do. Yeah.
I just wanted to piggyback onto Dr. Abdallah's comments. I was chair of the Committee on Education Affairs up through 2019, so I spent a lot of time in that group. And hearing about the exciting projects through the Committee on Training and Training Council reminded me of the collaborative nature of ASH. And again, being a volunteer in various domains where your passion is might actually help you intersect with other groups. So prior to the pandemic, we in the Committee on Education Affairs were partnering with the Committee on Training, Committee on Practice to look at well-being, physician well-being, burnout, resilience. And that was a beautiful example, I think, again, of the interdisciplinary cross-functional nature of these groups that are able to bring benefit to our membership, to the society, network with other societies. And just wanted to drive home that point that even though you might have a particular interest in a certain area, that may grow into something unexpected and wonderful, and perhaps even an academic scholarly pathway associated with that. So I did want to bring in that nature also of the cross-functional, interdisciplinary, collaborative nature of many of these groups we're talking about.
Thanks so much for bringing that up. And definitely, I have a distinct advantage being, the editor-in-chief of ASH Clinical News. Every time we're doing a news story or a news item or thinking about things, we're running all these items through our various committees at ASH, and that really have a bird's eye view and get to see that interplay amongst all the different committees and all the connections that are being made. It is, while there are distinct committees, it is really a big web of hematologists and working towards these ends. And it's a very collegial and collaborative environment to be part of. Well, again, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic discussion, and we are nearing the end of our discussion time. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to talk with me and to share your ASH volunteer experiences and your unbridled enthusiasm. You've had a chance to answer my questions, but now let's see if there's if any of our viewers have any questions for us. So moving on to our next set of question and answers from the audience, just want to start out by looking over the chat board here. We got a lot of great questions, and a lot of them are about how to get involved, of course, based on the content of our conversation. And one of the other issues is, how do I become an ASH member in order to become a volunteer, or do I even need to be an ASH member to volunteer within ASH? So, I'll throw that question over to Dr. Ulrickson. Do you have to be an ASH member to be involved, and how do you become an ASH member?
So yes, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for participating. So certainly, yes, ASH membership, not only for volunteering, but for many other reasons, certainly is helpful and encouraged. But to participate, ASH membership, is necessary and in good standing, which just means paying dues and all of those things to stay current. But once that part is done, and again, go to the website. Easy to find the way to do that with the initial one. It does mention a letter of support, things like that. So whether it be at your institution or others that you connect with, certainly can reach out and would say that people are enthusiastic about supporting membership. So don't let that be a hurdle that stops you. And then once participating in ASH membership, then opens the doors for all of the wonderful things that we were talking about.
Yeah, and you don't have to learn like a secret handshake or anything unless you want. So it's pretty easy to join. Again, and there are different categories for the type of person you may be within your career, right? So there's a trainee membership that's more geared for trainees, and those for who are kind of more senior members and the like. So all the information's on the ASH website at hematology.org, and pretty straightforward. The next question here I'll pose to Dr. Linenberger. How can we involve clinician scientists from low and medium income countries, specifically those from Africa, who would like to increase their collaboration with colleagues in the West?
Thank you. That's a wonderful question, and thank you all for participating. There are a number of ways to get involved, and you can go to the ASH website and search specifically for global initiatives, and you'll see a menu of items that are involved with clinical research, for visiting scholar arrangements, for visiting scientist arrangements, funding opportunities, clinical trials opportunities. Thinking about Africa in particular, obviously the sickle cell disease initiatives are very far-reaching and offer opportunities for involvement as well as volunteerism. I think, as we discussed in the pre-recorded session, the scientific subcommittees and education committees strive to have international representation, and this is global across all the continents and representing our membership. And so put in your self-nominations into the nominating committee portal site for nominations for scientific subcommittees and the standing subcommittees for involvement there. I think also reaching out individually to either chairs of certain groups or to ASH liaison staff would be a good way to search for involvement in ways that I'm not thinking about, but there might be opportunities there. Definitely ASH has had a focus on global hematology, I would say more so before the pandemic, but now we're able to resurrect this. So start with maybe the global initiatives site on the ASH website.
Yeah, ASH is definitely a global organization. Although the A stands for American, I mean, really, ASH is aiming to be the global home for hematology. The next question is about trainees. So, Dr. Abdallah, I'll pose this question to you, and then said, of course, thanked us for the information. And they said, well, beside the trainee committee, can you please share what other opportunities are available for early trainees, residents, and fellows specifically?
That's a wonderful question. So the ASH Trainee Council has a publication called Hematopoiesis that is written by trainees for trainees. And we welcome and we hope to essentially include trainee publications, so good trainee work. So that's always an outlet where you can share important cases, you can share reviews, you can share opinion pieces about different things within hematology. So submissions to Hematopoiesis are one way to go about it. Stop by at Ashapalooza, and you can even sign up for some things like Blood Wars, which is kind of a really fun Jeopardy style question that happens. You do not have to be part of trainee council to participate in that. And there are many workshops and self-education and self-advancement initiatives. They aren't volunteerism per se, and I haven't participated in all of them, but they are, again, a way to increase your network and to become involved. One example that comes to mind that was just recently held, or will be held, it's in October, is the FDA ASH Joint Workshop. That's a 2-day workshop that teaches trainees who may have little to no exposure to how kind of things function at a federal level to that kind of opportunity. And also, we are open to hearing about ways where trainees think they should be involved beyond trainee council. So if you have an idea of something where you think you could make a meaningful contribution, or you've seen other societies that do something in a specific way, reach out to us. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to explore if that could be something we can work on as well. And the last thing I will add, because I think we have a few questions to this effect are, I want to remind people that the Training Council is expanding and has expanded in the past year, and we now include positions for international members, so members outside of North America. And it is our first year, so we didn't receive very many applications, but I want to put that opportunity out there for people to learn about and to know that we want to hear the voice of global trainees. We know that training is different in different countries, and we want trainees to be able to share with us and tell us more about that.
Thank you so much. And the questions are rolling in. The next question, I'll pitch to Dr. Ulrickson in it trying to be fair with the rotation here. Thank you for the great discussion. How can I volunteer to become an abstract reviewer? So a very specific way to volunteer. I know it'd be interesting to see how the sausage is made for the annual meeting for sure.
Yeah, certainly I can speak to what I know about the process as well. So for ASH abstract review, generally helps to have some field that you have experience with and things like that, certainly an area of interest. And then as with most things ASH related, there's a nomination process. And so individuals that are interested in reviewing ASH abstracts are nominated. And again, as we mentioned on the recorded session, certainly nominating oneself is part of the process, demonstrating that enthusiasm of to step out and attempt to do that. And so each year there's a process, a call for abstract reviewers, and certainly a number of abstracts submitted that need that review. And so if there's a specific area of interest and certainly have, whether it be the scientific, the clinical expertise that pairs well with a certain subset of abstracts, then would encourage pursuing that and submitting the nomination.
Thank you.
Dr. Gerds, can
Yes.
I jump in real quick?
Absolutely.
Specifically, go to the Get Involved tab in the ASH website, and you'll find something called Meeting Leadership and Development, and that's specifically what Dr. Ulrickson is referring to. There'll be a volunteer interest form, but that is the site that is looking for abstract reviewers there. And one other quick comment also that you can find on the Get Involved website is the study section review. And actually fellows are invited to participate in study section review as junior reviewers. And it's great educational activity to be a junior reviewer. You work with a faculty member generally for that opportunity, but something that our fellows have found very helpful.
Thank you. The next question here, I'll field. It's from an audience member who is a recent international medical graduate, and asking about the fees for membership. So, the membership structure is such where we're really encouraging younger hematologists or hematologists to get involved, and so the medical student as well as resident membership fees are $0. It's only the time and effort of filling out the form that's involved, and then even for fellows, the associate membership is pretty reasonably priced for the annual membership there. Just again to help alleviate that, because we know that folks are facing financial hardships during that time of their training, and so a lot of training programs too will also pick up fees as well if they're incurred. So definitely there's a lot of effort to get the folks at that point in their career involved with ASH. Thus, once you become a member, you can jump on the portals and begin to volunteer. The next question from one of our listeners here is about the various initiatives that ASH has, particularly initiatives on DEI and health disparities within LGBTQ populations. And this might be a tough question to answer, but could you please share any opportunities to volunteer towards ASH DEI initiatives on LGBTQ health disparities? So I'll open that up to anyone who wants to field that one in the group. If we have a volunteer, if not, I will continue to talk. I think ASH is very mindful of these things. And to me, there are certainly certain subcommittees that are trying to address this directly, but I would say that this is a theme at every meeting, at least every meeting that I attend within ASH. Whether it's the Committee on Communications, it's the Publications Committee, it's Program Committee for the annual meeting, all these different committees have this at top of mind. There are certainly subcommittees within the various committee structure of ASH that are directly taking this head on. But since this is such a thematic theme within the entire organization, it comes up at every discussion. And so I would say no matter what place you volunteer within the ASH tent, this will be part of the efforts and is on top of mind all the time.
Yeah, I would just echo that, and just will add, one thing, at least within the sphere of, government affairs, things like that. I mean, one of the examples, because totally agree with you, that's just within the DNA of ASH. And so, for example, a whole lot of effort going into improving the care of patients living with sickle cell disease. And so, would say, again, back to that question of how do you get involved early on? The grassroots network is a great way to say, from a early career hematologist to get involved and to represent that ASH DNA of advocating for diversity, equity, inclusion, and to just contact representatives about, hey, we can't ignore this population that historically has not gotten the care that it should. So that's just one example, but agree that it's just throughout all of the committees. So I would almost turn it back and say, if that's a passion of yours, figure out which outlet, whether it be on practice, whether it be government affairs, whether it be on training, how will that manifest itself, because there's opportunities across the board.
Yeah, I might add the suggestion to, again, go to the Get Involved site and just complete the general volunteer interest form. There's a number of fields there to fill out, and then field that says other. And you can be very explicit around what your interests are, and ASH staff would be able to then get an idea. And in this case, with this question, would go immediately to the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, to that liaison, to that chairperson, and ask how this enthusiastic volunteer might be utilized. And I would venture to guess that there's a whole host of activities there.
Thank you. It would make sense if you were interested in that. That would be the committee you would lean towards, but definitely want to make the point that it's a universal theme within ASH and ASH service. So the next question is a kind of a two-parter, and so I'm going to do the first part first, or the second part first, and it's about online opportunities for international volunteers. With the pandemic, there's been obviously a big pivot to a lot of Zooms, and telecommunications has become stronger. And so I think even if you're an internationally based, and are part of committee, you can still be involved, because a lot of the meetings are still very hybrid or completely virtual at this point. So I think it definitely makes it a lot easier for an international member to do volunteerism within ASH. The other part of the question is more specific for PhDs. So would you please give advice on opportunities for PhDs, not MD PhDs, who dedicate their efforts in the hematology oncology field to contribute to the ASH perspective? So if you're a pure basic scientist, translational scientist, a PhD, lab only, not clinical, how can you get involved in ASH, and what can you contribute to the greater cause here? And so I'll open that up. Maybe I'll start with Dr. Linenberger again. If you were a PhD, how might you get involved?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. And I think, as we indicated in the pre-recorded session, ASH is very much committed to development of basic science PhD researchers. And actually, a new counselor member has just been created specifically for PhD-oriented basic science representation. I would say, in terms of how to get directly involved, self-nomination for one of the many subcommittees. PhD representation, again, is taken into account into the membership complement. And so that's a very direct way. I think most of the scientific subcommittees are meeting in person, but Zoom options absolutely are always available, even if there's an in-person meeting, trying to do hybrid in certain situations. But let me encourage you to, yes, reach out and pursue the scientific subcommittees. I think would be mostly the best conduit for PhDs, but pure PhDs also sit on some of the standing committees as well.
Yeah, I was going to add that I know in the committee of communications for the longest time we've had a PhD member, just to kind of give that added perspective that the clinicians in the room may not be thinking about. The next question is a little bit more about trainees. So a question about international rotations and establishment of collaborations. And is there recently an exchange program for trainees or fellows outside the USA? Dr. Abdallah, I don't know if you're aware of any programs that might fit that moniker of an exchange program or opportunities for collaborations across borders there.
That's a great question. I think I don't believe, to my knowledge, that there are opportunities for clinical rotations for trainees outside the US to do rotations within the US solely through ASH. However, I think there are multiple opportunities, and I would have to read the eligibility, and I encourage others to do the same, for specific areas of interest for rotation. So for example, you may be a trainee, and I don't know if this is only for people within North America or for the global community, but you may be a trainee at an institution that does not have a lot of sickle cell disease. And through ASH, you can gain exposure to the management of patients with sickle cell disease by doing an away rotation at an institution that's a center of excellence for sickle cell disease. So there are opportunities for trainees facilitated by ASH to leave their own programs to go elsewhere where there may be specific areas they're not sufficiently exposed to. And sickle cell comes to mind. I would encourage you to read the eligibility requirements. And if it is limited to patients, to fellows within North America, reach out if you're interested, and we can see if there would be an interest or a possibility to expand that. I will also say for our colleagues in Latin America, there are many away rotations within Latin America to centers of excellence. And this would be best reflected in the global hematology page on the ASH website. But I know that there are several centers within Latin America that are very expert at specific things. And one example that comes to mind is transplant. That may not be widely available everywhere. I know there are centers in Mexico, in Brazil, and in a few different places. And there are opportunities for people trainees from smaller institutions in other countries to do away rotations in other countries in Latin America. So there are certainly different opportunities. I personally don't know all of them. ASH is a massive resource for all things, but these are excellent questions, and I would really encourage you to try to find it on the website. And if you can't, just like many people have brought up before, ASH staff are remarkably responsive. If you send an email, they will almost always get back to you. If they don't have the answer, they'll connect you with who does. So I would encourage you to submit that question pertaining to your specific details after you've browsed through the website if there's areas that need further clarification.
Can I just add also that ASH does partner with the International Hematology Society. So reach out to your local hematology society within your country, and it's very likely that there is some partnership with ASH.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first thing that kind of came to my mind was ASH's efforts within clinical research in various places. So the CRTI in Latin America, now expanding kind of more globally with these types of programs, as well as the translational research and training in hematology programs. While they're not, kind of fellow clinical experiences, of course, but definitely a way to kind of get infusions from ASH within the hematology world.
And Dr. Gerds, if I could quickly circle back to one question I believe one of our participants asked about being an international medical graduate and hoping to qualify for trainee status. We know that training is different in different countries, and if the status that you see reflected on the website doesn't perfectly fit you, you don't fit very well into one of the categories, I come back to the same answer. Send an email, explain that in your country, this is what training looks like, and you are still a trainee, so you should can you please qualify for whatever trainee rate? So reach out, because the website and everything out there is just a guideline, but you may need specific answers.
After the major overhaul of the ASH website a few years ago, I'm glad it's getting a lot of play now, because it is a very useful tool. Certainly any questions pop up, there are contacts all over the website that can help connect you with committee chairs, ASH staff. Hopefully the right people are listed there and can connect you throughout the organization. So definitely a major resource there for becoming an ASH member and becoming an ASH volunteer. Well, again, thank you so much to all of you, Dr. Linenberger, Ulrickson, and Abdallah, for joining me today, as well as for our pre-recorded session to discuss volunteerism in ASH. Your enthusiasm and passion for ASH and hematology just comes through the computer screen so succinctly, and really, it's been a pleasure discussing this with you again. And thank you to the audience for joining us today. And feel free to reach out to us or through the ASH website as well to answer any additional questions you may have. So thanks again, and we will see you again next time.